Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the Cheats Movement podcast, and I am joined by a very, very special guest. I have followed this brother's career for quite some time, and I didn't even know the depths of the way this brother has touched culture, hip hop, sports, justice since he was a extremely young man. This It is an honor to talk to Jesse Washington of the Undefeated, but of so many more things as well. So, Jesse, welcome to the program.
Yo, what's up, man? It's great to be here. Thank you.
Man, thank you. And look, there's so many places that we could start. So I'm gonna start with I think probably the most obvious and the biggest, not the biggest, but the most obvious starting point, and that is the autobiography with the late Coach John Thompson, the legend. I Came as a Shadow. You were tapped to be the co-author of this book with one of the most legendary coaches of all time, and one of, just to be frank, not necessarily an open book, if you will. So how did you get tasked with this assignment, and how did you feel when it became a reality for you?
Whew, man. I'm still pinching myself. It still almost doesn't seem real. How did I get it? Right dude at the right place at the right time. Right black dude. John Thompson might use another word besides black dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he came to a place in his life where he wanted to finally set the record straight. And he had been so misrepresented and so stereotyped and so profiled over his whole career. He was like, all right, I'm going to put it down now. And he was looking for a writer, and his people called some people who knew some folks over at ESPN, and my name got thrown into the hat. Then I got to go do an interview, and then he said, all right, we're gonna. When I got the job, I didn't really have the job yet. I was in the game, but I could have been subbed out in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been kicked off the team if it wasn't really going right. So after a few months, when he got some confidence that I could tell his story the way he wanted it told, that's when we really got down to business.
So let me even ask this. How do you go into those situations knowing that it's tenuous, but this could be, as somebody with your background of understanding what Georgetown meant, no, understanding what John Thompson meant, understanding what hoops meant to to the whole landscape. How do you approach even those initial meetings? Did you know Coach John beforehand, or how
I
to
had
go?
never
How'd
I
you
had
go
never
into it?
met the man. Yeah, I had never met the man. So I went in, and really, man, there's so many basketball parallels. I'm a hooper and I'm a competitive person. So I knew that I had what it took. I knew I could kill it. I knew that there was nobody who could do it better than me just because it meant so much to me. And what he did and what he represented, I felt it deep down, and so I knew I was the one, but I had butterflies. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I
Mhm.
have butterflies the same way I did before I played in a big game. Sometimes, I mean, if I'm going to hoop with somebody, even to this day in my old and broken down state, and I know that there's going to be somebody there that I'm competitive with,
Right.
who they might get the better of me, but I think I'm gonna get the better of them. I have butterflies for that. Crazy it may sound. So I was nervous, but I knew that I could do it. And so I was confident, and I was aggressive with it. And Coach Thompson said, I don't want to write a book about basketball. This is our first meeting. And I said, that's good, because if you did, I wouldn't want to write it. He also said, what makes you think you could write my book? You haven't done anything like this before. So he came at me in a coach like fashion. And then his son JT3 was there, and he said, why'd you wear Adidas to this meeting? We're a Nike family. Because
Oh snap!
I had on
Right,
some top tens.
right.
I had the Adidas polo, and you can't wear the Adidas polo with the Nike shoes.
No,
Anybody
no,
knows
you
that
can't
don't
do
work.
it.
Yeah, so he's like, why you wear that to over here? And I said, I'm size 13, coach. There you go. I know you on the board of directors at Nike. It ain't nothing but a thing. I'm size 13. Fast
Oh
forward to
man.
now, they're about to drop these Georgetown ones,
Mm-hmm.
and they may or may not be en route to the crib right
Hey, I
now
hope
through the
so.
postal service.
I
So
hope so.
that's where we're at. So that's how I got the gig, man. That's what it was like. It was a challenge, man. It wasn't. People were like, "Oh, you must have had so much fun." I was like, "It's not fun." It's a great challenge. It was a tremendous experience. It was work.
Mm-hmm.
It was pressure. And Coach Thompson said on many occasions, Jesse, he would look me dead in the eye. We have to get this right.
Mm-hmm.
And we did, man. This was history. And he passed away before the book came out. And he probably knew that. That's why we had to get it right. So that was, a little bit of the experience of
I
writing.
was gonna ask because your people sometimes know themselves, and like you said, if the right time comes, Coach Thompson probably said, "Hey, look, we got this shot. We have to get this right. You're the man for the job." Did you have any inkling that health wise he was suffering or wasn't doing well? Like, did you think that this was also kind of the last shot we have to tell the story right?
Coach was a private guy and he kept his health very,
Mm-hmm.
very private up until the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess suffice it to say that I knew what was at stake and how important it was,
Mm-hmm.
and the Thompson family, and I really have to give a lot of credit for everything about this book. Him deciding to do it, choosing me, the way it came out, down to the title of the book. I credit his three children,
Mm.
Tiffany, Ronnie, and John the Third. And so they let me behind the curtain.
Mm.
Coach Thompson let me behind the curtain. And I hope that I earn that trust. And I still feel that I still have to earn it in the way I represent him. So, I was familiar with what was going on with Coach Thompson, and we all definitely knew what we were doing with this book.
And the interesting thing and the amazing thing about this book is I read a lot. I try to be an avid reader, and I'm a huge sports kind of those sports books from legendary coaches or about legendary teams is something I will never forget. This is probably embarrassing to say, but I never read a book by like choice in high school until I graduated high school and I read The Fab Five by Mitch Albom. And that book,
It's a
man,
terrific book.
What a book. But you have done, and I remember I couldn't put it down. And it just got me through this journey of learning about these college basketball teams. And what you've done with this book is exceeded so much. I have people coming to me and being like, yo, you got to read this Thompson book. And I was like, I read it, bro. I read the book already.
Oh, thank you, man.
But people tell
That's
me
terrific.
out of every genre of life, not just hoopers, not just people that you would think would be interested, they've all picked this book up. And I think one of the reasons is because there was so much misunderstanding around Coach throughout his entire career. And if somebody got access to get behind the curtain and tell those stories, and you told so many of them, is there something that you learned? I'm sure there was a lot, but there's something that you learned throughout his career at Georgetown where you, as a hoop fan, remember that team, remember that game, remember that instance, but I was like, man, I never saw it that way.
Oh yeah, man. Shoot. I mean, it was amazing how much. Now, so first of all, big up for becoming a late in life reader. Like that's tremendous.
I'm avid now. I feel
Yeah,
like
that's what's
I
up.
feel like
That's
it's
terrific. That's great.
that's
And
hilarious.
so me, I was the kid. We didn't have a television growing up. And so one of
word.
the first things I ever watched on television, period, was championship game, Georgetown versus North Carolina. I guess that
Oh,
was 84
yeah,
or 83.
yeah.
And I was like, man, I got to see this game. Now, I was a reader. I read the newspaper. My grandparents got me subscription to Sports Illustrated. So I knew what was going on. I was like, man, I got to see this game. And so across the hall in our projects, we were apartment 10J. They were apartment, 10F or whatever. And my neighbor had a little black and white TV about the size of this computer monitor that I'm looking into. And
Right.
she let me come over and watch the game.
Oh
And so
man.
that tells you, my relationship with Georgetown. And also, I was a reader. I
Mhm.
read everything about Georgetown,
Oh wow.
everything.
Oh
And
wow.
there was stuff that I had no idea because they didn't want to tell you. Who knew that his two biggest coaching influences was Red Auerbach and Dean Smith? They didn't want you to know that
Sure.
because then it would be like, oh, okay. So all this stuff that we're criticizing Coach about being in control, keeping the media out of practice, he got it from them.
Right.
So that was one big thing I learned. I mean, we did a lot of the interviews almost all the interviews at the Georgetown basketball office.
Okay.
The coach of Georgetown is Patrick
Patrick
Ewing.
Ewing, yeah.
We saw him all the time. The nicest guy ever. Every time Patrick Ewing walked past where we were working, he would stick his head in. And a lot of times I would be there ahead of coach. I'm getting ready. I'm getting prepared. And he'd be like, "Hey, Jesse, how you doing? What's up?"
Nice.
And then he'd wait for an answer. And this is Patrick.
All right. Hall of
just
Fame Dream Team member Pat Ewing,
man.
85 champion. Yeah.
He got better
Number
things to do than kick it with Jess, but that's the type of considerate guy he is, as Coach reveals in his book.
Mhm.
Everybody saw Patrick Ewing and thought he was a monster, a thug, a bad person, stupid, unintelligent, all that stuff. And so Coach peeled back those layers, and I saw it. I saw the relationship that they had, man, the interactions that they had. It was a beautiful thing. And so it just goes on and on, the new perspective that I got. And Coach kept things hidden on
Sure.
purpose.
Sure.
On purpose. I never knew that, all the stuff about his kids and everything. And so it was just, and that was one thing that he really didn't want to touch in the book. And that was like pulling teeth. I would ask a question about one of his children or something to do with his family. He would give me the briefest of answers.
Oof.
And then he would say, "All right, Jesse, that's enough about my family. What else you got?" What else you got?
That's crazy.
But he did open up about how he felt about his son John coaching, which we have never heard before, and about how he felt about his son getting fired from Georgetown, which we have never heard before. And so, I learned so much. I got so much perspective. There's stuff that I still apply to my work right now in terms of what I learned from him. It was just an amazing experience. It's John Thompson. I got to spend 2 years talking to John Thompson. I still can't really believe it happened.
Now, do you have a favorite Georgetown era? You mentioned going over your neighbor's house to watch that national championship game. I'm from Virginia, so you know where I'm going with this.
AI, baby.
Alonzo Mourning and then the Iverson Iverson going to Georgetown. Or I was in my hoop life, I was living hoops in '96. So the Jordan 11s on the Georgetown. The patent is still my favorite shoe to this day. But that was the Iverson, and then the sophomore year when they bought in Victor Page. But do you have a
So my favorite era? My favorite era is when they went to the Final Four 3 years in a row, because obviously the basketball, but it's hard. The whole culture was different then.
Sure.
Let's start with hip hop. Hip hop was disrespected, disgusted. Everybody hated on us.
Sure.
It's not. It was not even music, and that was the black people.
Right. This is the congressman.
They all criminals. Lock them up.
Yeah.
Shoot. Black folks were New York City, the birthplace of hip hop. See, I'm about to be on one, yo. You got me started. Now hip hop is everywhere. You go to the arena, they're playing it. The artists, of course, bruh. In the 80s, in New York City, they wouldn't play hip hop on the radio except on Friday and Saturday night. Yeah. Mr. Magic and Red Alert, and that, for 3 hours only, 9 to 12. Other than that, it was Freddie Jackson and Luther Vandross. No disrespect to them, but what's here for us? And Georgetown was so hip hop, dog. They were so hip hop. The attitude, the in your face, the we don't care what you're doing, we coming at you, getting disrespected everywhere. They were so hip hop. Before Jordan, they made us wear the dunks with the Hoyas on the heel. I mean, man, okay, calm down, Jess.
No, I love it. I love it.
So that's my era.
That's amazing.
That's my era. And then John Thompson, to have a black man in charge who took nothing from nobody. And when they stepped to him, he was he could handle anything and anybody. And so that's my era. I love the Alonzo era. I love the AI era. Obviously, that's incredible. And let's not forget, this is not an exaggeration. Nowadays, everybody, it's the word literally is in fashion right now, right?
Sure.
Everybody, literally this. Okay. Literally, most of the time it's misused. Literally, if John Thompson had not put Allen Iverson on his team at great risk to himself and his program and his reputation, We would not know who that dude is. Allen Iverson will be another urban legend like Pee
He'd be
Wee
an urban legend.
Kirkland
Like
or
in
Ray Lou.
Virginia.
He
Yeah.
he
In
would be
Virginia, we
that
know who he
dude
is.
who they were like, oh my goodness, he would have been one of the greatest ever, but he was a playground dude who only, did
Yeah.
this and that. John Thompson, it's not an exaggeration.
No. And it was one of those things where obviously VA has its share of hoopers and athletes and people
More than
coming,
its share.
especially
More
from
than its share.
that area. But but just like everywhere else, we have the what could have been stories as much as we have the what happened stories, right?
Yep.
And so if it wasn't for a handful of things, former Governor Wilder at the time didn't win any friends, right? Didn't win any friends as being the first black governor. We haven't had a black governor since. And then obviously Coach Thompson taking him in. That turn I will never forget. And I don't want to get on a tangent either, but games that you said you had to see. Games that you had to see. I think it had to be 96 if it's Iverson's sophomore year. If you remember, they opened that season in the Garden against Georgia Tech that had a freshman named Stephon Marbury.
Whew.
Marbury brings all of Coney Island to the Garden. And Iverson's like, okay. And he knew he had Victor Page. He knew he had Big Fella Othella. They had Jerome Williams on that team, I think Junkyard Dog. And and they had Marbury and Barry. They had some players. But I've never seen anything like this. The Garden was on fire before the game started. They jumped tip. And the first time Iverson brings the ball down on Marbury, standing ovation. The next time down, Marbury brings the ball on Iverson, or it could have been vice versa. But when they both brought the ball down on each other, both times standing ovation. And then Iverson went on to wreck him because he was the sophomore. He had the experience. He had the big game atmosphere and had the better team. And I'll never forget they said, because Marbury has 50,000 family members, like all of them in New York. They said the brothers were so mad. The Marbury brothers were so mad by the end of the second half that they left the game cussing at the Georgia Tech bench because Iverson was giving them the business.
Yo, that's a great
story.
Insane. That reminds me of when Coach said, so they got this Kenner League at Georgetown, which was the big time in DC. That was the league that everybody played in the summer.
Okay.
All the best college guys. It was the top thing. Named after a black man, by the way, Jabbo Kenner. Read about him in the book. And so AI has just got out of prison. He's been locked up. He's finally coming to Georgetown. And he said his first game in the Kenner League, this is before the internet, Coach Thompson was like, you couldn't get in the gym. The word had gone out. Everybody had come to see this dude. He said, and he specifically said, he had all his boys up there from Virginia, and they were ready to let the world know our man AI is back.
Man, that's crazy.
It's crazy. Awesome. He also said that AI was the first player he ever had who showed up on campus with a tattoo. Yeah. And I mean, I mean, and now you got high school kids with tattoos.
You have all the high school kids
because of AI.
Yeah, I think at first I was a little concerned, a little bit about Georgetown and a little bit about Iverson himself, that they would never find the proper context and what to explain their legacies in.
But what people didn't know about John Thompson is the depths of this man and how he has the highest degree of emotional intelligence that I've ever encountered. And so he understood, not only did he understand how to mentor and coach and nurture a young man like Allen Iverson with everything that he had been through, he sought that out. He wanted to do that. One of the things I found out in this book is that Coach Thompson never wanted to be a coach. He wanted to be a teacher and was basically, he quit playing pro ball after getting 2 rings with the Boston Celtics and Bill Russell and Red Auerbach, and was a social worker, working with kids who had just got out of jail, reintroducing them to society like AI. And so he knew exactly how much rope to give this kid and how to bring him back and how to get with him. one more quick story
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this,
yeah. No,
which shows
absolutely.
like why he was the perfect person for this. So Coach Thompson told me, so he's famous for his profanity,
Yep.
famous for his profanity. When I knew that I was behind the curtain, that I had the job, was when he started calling me MFer. you know, and
Rite of
so
passage.
right, and so AI said, I asked Coach Thompson, I was like, yo, like, so how did this whole thing get started with the profanity? He said, man, when I when I was in college, even when I was in the NBA, profanity was not part of my vocabulary at all.
Mm,
And then I became a social worker and I started working with these kids coming out of prison. And, not all of them, but some of them, they're not going to listen to you if you're like, excuse me, Johnny, will you please get off that desk?
mm.
They're not going to listen to you. I'm going to get off that desk.
Right.
And he said that's where his profanity started. Fast forward when AI came up and his mom brought AI to Georgetown's campus and was like, please, Coach Thompson, will you take my son? Nobody else is going to coach him. And Coach Thompson was like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to work. And she, Mrs. Iverson, asked everyone else to leave the room and looked John Thompson in the face and said, Coach, if you don't take him, they're going to kill him.
Hmm.
So he was like, wow, that really hit me in the heart. Let me talk
Mm.
to the boy. According to AI, he said in that first meeting with John Thompson, he has never been called MFer more times than he was in that first meeting with Coach Thompson.
Wow.
So like
Wow.
he was the perfect guy. And a lot of people seem that there's like a dissonance in the image, like, oh, you got AI, braids,
Sure.
tatted out, whatever, and John Thompson straight laced and all that. But John Thompson was not afraid to be who he was. And John Thompson was like, I am a proud black man. And if you don't like who I am and how I present myself to the world, I don't care. And so, in some ways, he instilled that in AI, that confidence to be who he was, and allowed AI to just change the whole paradigm of basketball. And so, I mean, it's
Jesse,
just amazing that these two men cross paths, and one without the other, they both created each other's legacy.
Jesse, that's a great, great story, a great point, and actually a great transition to what I want to ask you next. Because you have been able, and you can tell me when this happened, or it may have always been the case, but you have been able to write and put work out into for everyone to read. That is unapologetic. Unapologetic you, unapologetic black. And obviously at the Undefeated, you found a home that fosters that and wants that. But you've been writing for a long time. You've been winning awards for a long time. You've been getting bylines for a long time. And a lot of those spaces, especially if we're talking about hip hop, you're able to kind of be that unapologetic writer, but it's still in that box you were saying. It's like, oh, hip hop's pushing the boundaries. When do you feel like you found your groove as a writer to express your views unapologetically and be able to touch race, culture, hip hop, and all the things that you touch now at the Undefeated and beyond? But it's not easy, and you've been able to, I feel, master it and come into your own. How did that come about?
Man, I really enjoy that question, and nobody's asked me that before. Um, I still don't feel like I've fulfilled everything I can do. I still haven't found that perfect recipe, so I'm still trying to master and continue to master my craft. But I'm gonna go back to, I came up in the newspaper era, and it's a whole different thing. And I was usually the only black person in the room or at the paper. And then I also came up with the Associated Press for a good bit of time. And so that tries to strip all of the, personality out of something. But that really taught me to rely on the facts and to start with that foundation, and then you can build on it. A pivotal moment in my career was when I was out of college, first job, 92, Detroit, Michigan, working for the Associated Press. And uh, there was a brother working for the Detroit News at the time. His name is Daryl Dawsey. Shout to my dude, Daryl Dawsey. For those who know from back then, tremendously talented dude in the game, worked at all the biggest papers and pissed everybody off at all the biggest papers. It was like, I mean, a legend.
Wow.
And Daryl Dawsey had a column in the Detroit News, and it was called Buck Wyland. D at the end of Wyland. And there was a picture of him like, and I was like, oh, and it something clicked. I was like, and then I read the column, and it was Daryl being Daryl. Daryl's a wild boy from the east side of Detroit. And I was like, oh, snap. This is a black man writing as a black man.
I can do this.
So
this can happen.
Right. This can happen. And then at the same time, I was reading the Source magazine.
Okay.
And the Source came before Vibe. And the original OG Source, Reggie Dennis, James Bernard, Chris Wilder, Matty C, Rob Marriott. Like, I was soaking that up. And that had a voice and a swag and a style. And so all these things were sort of percolating me and made me try to go after it. So when did I find my voice? When I didn't find it was in my first assignment for the Source magazine. Cause I was like, oh, I'm finally at the Source. Yeah, right. I get to, yeah, I'm gonna go hard. And I wrote this, and the article was embarrassingly over the top hip hop. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Word, blah, 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 you know, like, and my homegirl, Kierna Mayo, who edited that piece, she's tired of me thanking her over the years for editing the idiocy out of that piece. And just, and, you know, all right, Jess, okay, we get it. You're happy to be at the Source. Calm down. But you got to understand, back then, the outlets for us to be published with our authentic selves were few and far between. So this is part of the process, man. And so every now and then I'm working at the AP, but I would get a column off in Essence magazine, or I would do some work for the Source. And these platforms, black platforms, started to let me get my reps in. And I started to work at Vibe. And then really it all came together and at the Undefeated. Wow. And the Undefeated just really being sort of the apex of everything coming together in terms of my experience. It all comes from the reporting. I'm older now, I'm a little bit wiser. I have more perspective. I have more freedom. And so that's where I can really do my thing. So I am proud. If you play baseball, sometimes when you get a nice hit, sometimes just the feel of the ball coming off the bat knows that you got a hold of it. I've got a couple pieces like that with the Undefeated. You know, I fouled some of them off. I've, you know, grounded out to shortstop with some other ones, but I'm still trying to get to that level of consistency where I can really do that. And all of the young people who listen to this now, and all the people who are writing and expressing themselves in other forms, man, now is really a golden age of Black expression in the media. And some of the people who I mentioned, the Source magazine, Daryl Dawsey, Kierna Mayo, Nelson George, Greg Tate, Dream Hampton, you know, all of these journalists who really sort of carved that lane out for us to be us and that hip hop generation, you know, shout to them. Rob Kenner, who's not Black, but still taught me so much about how to be a magazine writer. Carter Harris, Danielle Smith, Elliot Wilson. There's so many. Know, like that era has really, that's the foundation for what we're allowed to do today.
You mentioned Greg Tate, and my man put me on Village Voice. And my man put me on later in life. So I had to go back and read his reviews. He's printing it off to like collections of like all of these Village Voice reviews.
Brilliant.
It's even for me, and I've immersed myself into this type of journalism culture now. And even still today, Greg Tate hits things that I'll be like, huh, well, how did 100%. How did he get there? And you've been able to do so much. It's.
Let me mention one more.
Oh, yeah,
one more. Because I got to pay respect to the OGs.
Absolutely.
Havelock Nelson.
Oh.
You know, Havelock Nelson, The Death of Rhythm and Blues is a seminal book about Black music. If you want to understand anything about Black music, if you call yourself a critic in this space, get The Death of Rhythm and Blues so you can understand how we got to where we're at right now. Where really, I would argue there is no such thing as R&B anymore. It's all hip hop. Even the dudes who sing, it's all hip hop.
Right.
So anyway, continue though.
No, I like it. And I'll put a bow on what you were saying, because the byline, it's almost like a golden age of what you guys have created and put together at the Undefeated. If you look at byline after byline after byline, just impressive writer after impressive writer after impressive writer. It is fulfilling the space that its goal of that intersection of race and culture and sports. It's all of that. When you look at the Undefeated as a whole, and obviously I know you're proud to be there and you're doing great work there. Do you feel like, given the writers that you have, the space that you're covering, is there a way to, do you think it's reached the place that it needs to be in kind of the public dialogue? Like the we do it, the walking down the street test, like, man, you see that piece on the Undefeated the other day? Like, do you think it's gotten there yet?
Yo, amazingly, it has. And here's the test. I'm out in Minneapolis covering the Derek Chauvin trial.
Mm-hmm.
I go to George Floyd Square. I figure out who the orchestrator and one of the, even though it's a community space, there's certain community leaders, and I'm not going to roll up in your hood and act like I own the spot. That's how I do my work. And so, okay. And there was a powerful, powerful sister out there. Her spirit is powerful. Her activism, her support for her community is powerful. Marsha Howard.
Mm.
And I introduced myself. He's like, "Oh yeah, the Undefeated. I know y'all.
Yep. Check.
I know y'all. Wow." And I was at the 2016 Rio Olympics.
Mm.
Roll up on my man Jeff Capel, who's an assistant coach for the basketball team.
Former coach of VCU in Richmond.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah.
Shout to Coach Capel. Introduce myself. Just want to talk about this and that. Oh yeah, the Undefeated. Yeah, I know y'all. So we have, shout to Kevin Merida, who really
Mm-hmm.
came in and his leadership and vision and journalism chops. And out the gate, Kevin Merida was like, no, we're more than a website. We're not just going to be writing stories.
Right.
And so now here we are 5 years later with, TV specials, Barack Obama, at a black college,
phenomenal
albums, I
got the children's book. Me and my child. I got a 7-year-old son. We go through the Fierce 44s, and I think
word.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I do think that we have got to that point, but I don't think that we've reached our full potential. I'm tremendously proud. Our new leader, Raina Kelly, has some real big things in store. So after our next year, big things go on with the Undefeated scene. And I'll come back on your podcast and talk about it.
We got to. Jesse, I got a couple last things to get you out of here, because we can't get you out of here without talking a little bit of sneaker culture, a little bit of hip hop, because I know we could do it all day.
Yes,
but
sir.
We'll close
Let's
it out.
Go.
But we talked about it a little bit right before we came on the air. I knew Bounce Magazine from Bobbito Garcia. I've had the honor to have him on the show a couple times. Amazing guy. I hope he has a cell phone now, because Cool Bob Love never had a cell phone.
Yo,
man, bro.
You remember when RZA was Bobby Digital?
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to call Bobbito Analog Bob.
Man, it was. I mean, I will tell you the truth.
He would call you for a
matter is,
payphone.
Bro,
he's the last person in New York to use a payphone, bro.
I didn't know him. I was going to interview him for the Doing in the Park documentary that he released, his first movie. And we set up an interview, and it got a little bit crazy. And he looks at me, he's on the phone with me, and he goes, "Cheats, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's Cheats." And he's like, "Look, I don't have a cell phone. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there." He's like, don't waste my time. Meet me at Tillery Park at this time. Let's go. And
Tillery. He said Tillery Park.
Yeah,
Yo, I knew I loved you, bro.
He was there.
I knew I loved you.
He was there, and I got this whole interview, and he played some hoops and everything, and it was, but yeah, I hope he got a cell phone now. My thing is, I didn't know your involvement with Bounce until I read your bio, even in detail. Tell me about the intersection of New York City street hoops and sneakers, because, and you know what? It just came to me. I should have known, because you're in the ESPN sneaker Bobbito show, right? Hooping, you're hooping at like a street ball tournament and all of that. You're on camera.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Tell me about the intersection
doubt.
for you of sneakers and hoops.
Oh man, shoot. My sneaker story starts with a pair of Jocks. JOX.
What is that?
Right. What is that? Exactly. What is that? That were my mom's shoes, and I had to wear them all one summer.
Ugh.
So, and then in high school, I'm trying to get my hoop on, and I
Right.
had on the Olympians from Fava. All my New York OGs remember Fava. It was the Payless of his day. And the Olympians, this is what the stripes on the Olympians look like. It was a Puma stripe and then two Adidas going over the Puma stripe, one on the top and one
Nice.
under the bottom
That's
of the Puma stripe.
amazing.
So
That's
that's how I was
amazing.
getting down. So I was like, yo, if I ever, please, Lord God, if I ever get some money, I will allow me to keep my feet fresh at
Oh
all
my
times. And it
goodness.
gave me a complex. It gave me, and so now I have a problem.
You still hold
You
this
know,
problem today?
yeah, I am. I
Yeah.
admit it. My
Okay.
name is Jesse Washington. Hey, shout to Nas. I'm an addict for sneakers.
Hey, there you
So,
go.
so just like Bob's book, Where'd You Get Those?
Yep.
Bobito wrote a book, Where'd You Get Those? Any sneakerhead has to get this book because it stops at the first Air Jordan.
Right.
That's the end of the book. There's a whole history before that Bob was a part of and lays out and that I grew up in, which is just how Black and Puerto Rican kids took sneakers and flipped it into something that meant something else. And it was about originality and style and culture. And it really came from the relationship that basketball had
Right.
and b-boying. And like this alchemy happened, man, and starting in New York City, but not limited to New York City. And this alchemy happened. And from then on, basketball and hip hop and sneakers were fused, and you can't separate them anymore. And now we see where it's at now. I'm almost to the point, bro, where I'm like, I'm a little, and I know like I'm old now, so I don't want to be,
Sure.
that get off my lawn dude on my front porch. But
Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, now let me fall back, man. Shout out to all the young people who are doing what they do. But I got one question. Everybody has a shoe. How can it be hot? If anybody can get it, how can it be hot? Like, I just don't understand that.
So here's the thing that stands out to me from the difference of, like you were saying, generations and eras and so forth.
Right.
Even so, with Bob's book and what you're talking about, it was like, yo, let me get these shoes and let me figure out how to freak them and how to change the laces. And Bob was talking about taking erector sets and cutting out the swoosh. And so people would be like, yo, I've never seen that, or I've never seen it worn in that way.
Yes.
Flash forward to now, 92, 93, even with Wu was like, we gonna take the Clarks, but I'm a dot of front blue. Like Ghostface is like, I'm a dot of front blue bow, and then I'm gonna have the black, this dark green. And people are like, what? But it was so nobody did what they did with the Clarks. Right. I think this generation, I'm not as worried about the access, but it's nobody is gonna take that, I don't know, Travis Scott Air Force One, and they're not going to freak it. They're not going to do something, or if they
don't even want to walk in it. You see how they walk in their sneakers so they don't get creased? They tiptoeing around in the shoe.
But they don't. There's no respect in that part.
You know what? You brought up something. You sparked something, and that's a dead on observation that you just said. And here's I think where it starts to bother me. What you just described was us making it hot.
Right.
Now, the sneaker companies are manipulating us by limiting the supply in order to make it hot. And so they're in control. We were in control before. And now I feel to a certain extent, we are being controlled by the sneaker companies who manipulate the false sense of scarcity in order to keep it rolling. I had a really interesting conversation. My oldest son is 22 and he's a fly dude, man. I mean, he knows what's up. And we were talking about the Kobe's and how Vanessa Bryant is like, there's no more Kobe's out because she, and one of her issues was she wanted more of them to be available. And my son was like, yeah, but I mean, if anybody could get them, then they won't be hot. And I really had
Marbury curse.
Yeah.
The Marbury curse.
I do have a pair of Marburys for the record.
So here's the thing.
$14.99, baby.
You got the original Stephen Barry Nick ones? Or do you have because they did, if you remember, they did like a sports shoe, but they also did like like a suede, like regular casual, like almost like a New Balance type shit?
No, I got the high top.
Oh
I got the one
man,
that Steph wore in the NBA. And let me tell you
right.
this, it feels like, and I love it. It was like so counter revolutionary, subversive move to undercut everybody. Yeah, I'm gonna have shoes that's hot in the hood that cost $14.99. So I so respect that. I bought it. I supported it. They feel like a pair of wet paper towels wrapped around
It's
your foot.
awful. It's awful. But that's why you
You know,
should have went
yeah.
we should have went the other way. We should have
We
went with like the New Balance, like casual joints that because they had them at the
right.
same time. And you
They
can't
should have.
even find those other joints now. Like those are so scarce now
Right.
that it's amazing. All right,
Right.
last thing, Jesse.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
sir.
We're gonna get you out of here.
Yes, sir.
And I think I know where you're going. I think I know where you're gonna go with this, but I don't want to assume because obviously your career has been intersected with hip hop music. We've already talked in this interview how much it means to you. Where are we now when we come to hip hop, the actual music? And can you listen to new stuff? Like I said, if I'm talking about Beto Garcia, he's like, I ain't listened to nothing new since 1992.
Yo, Bob is a hater, man.
Right.
Bob is a
But
hater, and I love you, Bob. Bob said to me once, period point blank, he's like, there's nothing at all that anybody's doing now that's at all original. And I don't agree with that. So
okay,
yeah.
so
where are
you
we now? Okay. So you see what I got behind me.
I see.
So I'm still, I'm trying to find the good in everything. That's how I live my life, man. You got to find, there's good in everybody and everything, even dudes who can't rap,
Okay.
of which there are plenty of them now. There were dudes who couldn't rap before. There were dudes who made catchy little songs that are classics. Rob Bass cannot rap. Oh, I got an ego. Yo, that's like the mumble rap of 1987. But the beat was banging and it was simple and catchy.
It was.
And it Takes Two is a classic. So where am I now? I think there's a lot of good music being made, man.
Okay.
I think that these young brothers, like the musicality is more accessible to everybody now, so that you don't have to get a hustler to put up studio money to make music. So the accessibility is wonderful. I think there's tons of talent out there, tons of dudes who can really, really rap. I'm partial to dudes who rap, who put things together in a cool way that is creative and artistic and might even be saying something. It's funny, man. I was going, and I'll bring it back to my son Coltrane again. He's a college basketball player. He loves NBA Youngboy. He's 22 years old. I never really got into NBA Youngboy, but I was going down on a road trip and I was going to see him. And on the way, I was listening to the infamous album Mobb Deep.
Right.
Rock you in your face, stab your brain with your nose bone.
Right.
Classic lines. And then I went on a little jaunt with my son. I was like, yeah, man, throw on some of what you listen to. And he's got the NBA Youngboy on there. I'm listening to it. And he stops his phone and he's just like, but Dad, did you hear what he said? Like, and I can't remember what the lyric was, but he's like, who says that? Like, the way he said that was crazy. And then it clicked in for me that, these dudes, like their generation, it's for them and it resonates with them. And if I liked it, it wouldn't be hot to them. Now, my son and I do have certain artists that we both like. Yeah. We both like Kendrick.
Kendrick and Cole. You did the Cole piece,
right? He likes some of the old school stuff, as well. He'll rock with a Nas. He'll rock with the Roots, know. And then, so I think that there's a lot of great artists now, man. I do. I think there's a lot, and even the cats who are, trappity trap, and sing song and all that. Like, I'm not mad at that, man. Hip hop has taken over. It's where we're supposed to be. Everybody, it is the soundtrack of America and the world. When I grew up, they said it wasn't even music. So I love it, man. I love it. I support it. Even the ones who can't rap, if y'all gonna make some hits off it, then that's great. Where are you at with it?
I think greatness transitions is what I think. And what I mean by that is, for whatever reason, like if you look at Willie Mays highlights, or if you look at defense of Brooks Robinson at third base, or if you look at a Muhammad Ali or Joe Frazier highlight today, you still know that those guys can go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know basketball is a little bit different in the sense of the athleticism and the speed, but you're not going to tell me that Magic Johnson couldn't play today, right? Like, I think Michael Jordan, like the interesting thing about Jordan is he's one of the first basketball athletes that I can actually remember where there was no debate in any era could he have played. Like there's some folks that might even say Wilt might not be Wilt today or something like that. But
yeah, y'all tripping.
When it came but when it came to Jordan, it was this like nobody ever says like, oh, Jordan couldn't hang today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just that level of, and so when I think of hip hop, it's kind of funny because we always have these top 5 conversations and GOAT conversations, and certain people may not be mentioned. But then if you bring that name up and say, so do you think Rakim could make hits, like could go today? And everybody be like, no doubt. Rakim could go. Like, so when I think of what I think about generational, like great hip hop artists, you mentioned Cole of today. You mentioned Cole, you mentioned the Kendricks of the world. I think they would have been just fine if they were in 92. Like, I think they're that good.
100%.
I'm not sure. no diss to any of the current art. I won't even name names, but I'm not sure if certain folks that we even elevate would be able to go. And when it came to, because I think that 90, like
but they might be rapping different. They might be.
They're definitely talented.
They might be rapping different.
I think we're in a good place.
Because dudes are going to chase what makes money. You know, and nowadays there's a theme and a genre and a style that makes money. So dudes are going to do that. So they might be doing something different, man. They're just as smart as them cats. Like Black Genius.
I think so.
It keeps going. And so, you know, even if it doesn't necessarily resonate with me, even if I don't like it, you know, I gotta respect it. I mean, I do too. I'm not a Drake fan. Drake is a tremendous artist.
I like Drake. I think Drake is extremely.
And Drake can rap.
Yeah.
And Drake can rap. If you're gonna spit, he can rap. You know. And so, you know, so who's your top 5, not in order, with right now, knowing that next week it could be different?
Yeah,
give me 5. Rapid fire, man.
Well, I will say this. I think
5 names.
I think Hov is the greatest. No, Hov is the greatest of all time. I'll say that. Hov is the greatest of all time. Biggie is going in there. One of my personal favorites, Ghostface Killah.
Top 5, Ghost. Okay.
I think Ghost is amazing.
Okay.
Oh, Big. Did I say Big? I said Big.
Yep. He said Big.
I love Rakim.
Okay. Man. 4 New Yorkers. Okay.
Yeah, I'm East Coast heavy.
Okay.
I don't know. Can we count Outkast as a group?
Nope. Gotta give me.
You can't count Tribe as a group. Okay.
Nope.
Lyricist. Oh, did we say Nas?
Nope. There you go. Nas. Okay. All right. So my top 5, and these are not in order.
I'm gonna regret this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Jay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Black Thought. I'm gonna put Kendrick.
Okay. Oh, Kendrick. I should have put Kendrick. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Big, and then based strictly on what I saw on Versus when he was there with DNA, I'm putting Snoop in there because this brother.
I thought you were gonna go Jada. Okay.
Now I'm gonna go. I love Jada. Jada's amazing, but I'm gonna put Snoop.
Yeah.
Just because this man has transcended era after era after era. Spitter, charisma, flow, style. So I had to put after that I was like, yeah, Snoop's my top 5. You know,
I love
it hurts me, you know, but that could change tomorrow, man.
It could.
I'm glad to be living in this era, man. I'm glad to see hip hop go from when I had to carry crates and crates of records to DJ a party to when I could show up at a laptop.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Even though you know, like I know Bob would turn up, analog Bob Ito would turn up his nose at Serato, you know, and him and there's this great DJs, you know, him, Rich Medina, these guys use real vinyl and 45s and stuff, which is cool. I don't understand the whole 45 thing, but still. But you know, Clark Kent uses Serato and actual turntables. So if I got 1200s, I feel like I'm still keeping it true to what's going on, even if it's Serato. I'm glad to be in this era. I'm glad to, man. I heard a dude. you know, there's so much talent out there, so many people rapping. You might come across them on a random tweet on a Thursday night, you know. So, I'm happy to still be here.
Jesse, I'm going to let you go on this. Jesse Washington, the Undefeated, doing amazing work. I Came as a Shadow is the book that is, I mean, at this point now, being nominated and winning awards and on all the end of the year book list and all of that stuff. So congratulations to you on that. I did read also, you directed your first film. Oh, look, we got so much. We're going to have to do a part 2. But what do you want people to know in regards to what you're working on now? What's the big thing coming up?
Yeah, man, just putting in that work with the Undefeated. I'm writing a lot about reparations. That movement is inching forward across the country, where it was just a far-fetched idea when Ta-Nehisi really put it on the map a couple years back. There are actual reparations being given out in some places now, so I'm working on that. Got another book that I'm working on with somebody that I'm going to come on your podcast and talk about. I don't want to put it out there just yet. And hopefully, the 50th anniversary of hip hop is in 2023, man. So I'm hoping to come heavy with that.
Oh,
with
man,
the Undefeated.
I can't
hoping
wait.
to come heavy with that. That's what's up. TheUndefeated.com, baby. Raina Kelly. Yes, I work for 3 Black women at the Undefeated. 3 Black women run the Undefeated, yo.
That's
Shout
amazing.
to Raina Kelly, Monique Jones, Sharon Matthews, the boss lady.
Oh,
I love it.
Well, thank you, Jesse. Thank you. This is the Cheats Movement. Nothing but the best, man. We're trying to give you the best we can when it comes to culture and everything in between. So until next time, we'll be right back after this.